A man vanishes for 5 days only to reappear, mysteriously dead from fright. Bright lights were seen in the sky the night he disappeared. In a shocking twist, the policeman who first investigated the case recalls being abducted under hypnosis. Join me as we explore the details of this bizarre mystery. Welcome to You Should Be Scared, your number one source for everything mysterious and unexplained. I'm your host, Taylor. On June 6, 1980, coal miner Zigmund Adamski left his home in Tingley, a village in West Yorkshire, to go shopping, but he never returned. 5 days later, his body was found on top of a coal pile in a coal supplier's yard in Todmorden, 20 miles from his home. Policeman Godfrey arrived and discovered Adamski with vivid burn marks on his shoulders and neck. Surprisingly, his clothes were remarkably clean, despite his being missing for 5 days. Oddly, his jacket was buttoned incorrectly, and he wasn't wearing a shirt underneath. Adamski's wallet and watch were missing. His hair had been roughly cut. Strangely, he only had 1 day of beard growth, despite being missing for several days. The police interviewed the coal yard owner and his son. The son was the last person present at the yard, and he told the police he had been there from morning until midday. He insisted that he definitely hadn't seen a body on the coal pile during that time. Mr. Adamski's body was transported to the local hospital, where pathologist James Turnbull determined that his death had occurred somewhere between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. that day. The strange burns on his body had been there for about 2 days, and they had been treated with a mysterious green ointment that forensic scientists could not identify. Turnbull stated that the exact cause of his death couldn't be determined for certain. However, he concluded that Adamski had died of a heart attack due to shock or fright. Speaking to the press, PC Godfrey mentioned the possibility that Adamski had been a victim of alien abduction. He's quoted as saying,
"I'm open-minded and therefore I cannot rule it out."
The true cause of the Loft House colliery worker's death remains a mystery to this day. One strange theory that circulated at the time was that Adamski had been assassinated by the KGB. Another theory suggested he had been struck by ball lightning, causing him to wander off in a confused state and eventually die at the top of the coal heap. However, to many there was only one explanation. Adamski encountered aliens on his way to the shops, and it had cost him his life. The mystery of Mr. Adamski's death still remains unsolved. Where had he been for several days after leaving his house? What was that strange ointment on his wounds? How did he end up on top of that coal pile? What did he see that left his face contorted in fear? The case never progressed beyond these questions, and this story remains an unsolved enigma. So, as we know, policeman Godfrey had been the first to arrive at the coal yard scene. And 5 months later, during a night shift, something very strange happened to him. Around 5 in the morning, he was called to help find some cattle that had gone missing from a farmer's field. After searching for the cows and being unable to locate them, he returned to his patrol car. Suddenly, a large object appeared ahead of him. It was enormous, and at first he thought it was a broken-down bus. However, he realized that the lights on the object were strange, and its shape was not that of a bus. Godfrey described it as a bright light in the sky, a rotating diamond-shaped vessel, 20 feet high and 14 feet wide. Godfrey tried desperately to radio for help, but his equipment had inexplicably stopped working. The object then suddenly vanished, and Godfrey found himself 27 meters further down the road. Also, he couldn't account for approximately 30 minutes of time that had passed. That same night, other policemen independently reported seeing strange bright lights in the sky descending into the valley. A member of the public also called the police, concerned about the lights. Even stranger, Godfrey discovered that the soles of his boots looked as if he had been dragged along the ground. The soles of his shoes were totally ripped apart, and there was an itchy mark on one of his feet. Confused, Godfrey returned to where he had first seen the strange object. He found that the road was completely dry despite recent rain. The missing cows were also there in a field they didn't belong to, which was locked with a padlocked gate. The ground was very muddy, but there were no hoof prints from the cows. How could the cows have entered the field without leaving any prints? And how did they enter a locked field? It seemed almost as though, like Mr. Adamski, they had been dropped there from above. When Godfrey finally reported his strange encounter, he faced skepticism and ridicule. On the advice of a solicitor friend, he decided to see a hypnotist to uncover what he had witnessed. The hypnotherapist specialized in regression therapy, a technique that takes a patient back to a past event. Godfrey was particularly uneasy about the missing time he couldn't account for. Under hypnosis, he described finding himself in a small room with a black-robed, bearded man who had a biblical appearance, accompanied by a huge black dog. There were also smaller creatures the size of 5-year-olds who moved with robotic movements. Several weeks after, Godfrey's account leaked to the newspapers and became an international news story. He was summoned to his inspector's office. However, when he got there was a man in a dark suit and tie who introduced himself as the man from the ministry. The man had a file containing Godfrey's drawing of the strange craft. Godfrey wasn't allowed to see the rest of the file, but assumed it also contained his account of the evening's events and his report on the mysterious death of Zigmund Adamski. The man instructed Godfrey to swear on the Official Secrets Act that he would not talk to anyone about what he had seen. Reluctantly, Godfrey agreed. Over the next few days, Godfrey encountered the man several times. It was clear he was being followed. Eventually, Godfrey confronted the man in his local pub, telling him to clear off. The man disappeared and was never seen again. Who was this mysterious man? Was he an MI5 agent sent to warn him off? Godfrey believed so. Another theory suggests the stranger was from West Yorkshire police, sent to prevent Godfrey from speaking to the press and drawing more attention to the force, which was already receiving bad publicity over the Yorkshire Ripper case. Godfrey's claims were seen as an embarrassment to the force, and he was eventually transferred to Wakefield. There was even an attempt made to have him sectioned. Godfrey later claimed he was hounded out of the police for refusing to give up on his story. Since the incidents in 1980, several areas of West Yorkshire have become UFO hotspots. Mysterious objects have been reported for 40 years across the Pennines in the skies above Homfirth, Rothwell, and, in 2016, over the world-famous Ribblehead Viaduct, where strange lights hovered in the sky for several hours. A year after Godfrey's experience, local Vicky Dinsdale was out walking her dog with her grandfather when they saw a long, thin, diamond-shaped object that kept changing colour. Vicky's grandfather, a former sergeant in the army, told her to keep what they saw to themselves, mindful of the ridicule Godfrey had faced. Well then, you spooky lot, there you have it. Another strange and mystifying case. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all again soon for more mysteries. Maybe you're not ready for the journey to end? If so, why not click on one of the videos on the screen now? Stay curious, stay cautious, and stay tuned for more mysteries. And remember, you should be scared.
You should be scared.